Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. That's Fission. And I want to thank Michael from Primetime on this same station for inviting me to be a guest host on his radio show last night. It was quite stimulating and really fun, interesting. I have to say that a lot of times I'll listen to his show and I can't get through it. I'll listen to parts of it, but I have to fast forward because I feel like sometimes the word liberal, the conversation, the way people talk. So it was great to be able to have a conversation and really discuss the issues, because I think all these terms, this is my same issue with the frickin' Democrats too. This is why before Bernie Sanders, I was not a Democrat. I had been all my life and I ditched him. So, but anyways, today is Wednesday. I want to get back on track here. We normally have interviews on Wednesday, and I got a last minute call that the person that I was going to interview, Patty Amino, had a doctor appointment and could not reschedule it. And that was the only day the doctor could do it, and blah, blah. So instead of like freaking out and deciding who am I going to find, I decided to interview me. And this is why I do this. And I know we're a small radio station, but you know what? This is the one venue where we can get people who bring facts about the harm that the nuclear industry and the geoengineering industry is doing to us. The two programs that started after the United States that have been harming the planet nonstop, without regard. Nobody even looks at it. Yes, Monsanto, yes, the GMOs, but no one's looking at the two most catastrophic catastrophes wrought on intentionally and intentionally ignored. I don't know. Patty Amino has done a lot of really great work, and I appreciate every person who comes on this radio show to talk about the harm that nuclear does. Because we're talking serious effects, folks. This last week I was talking about these nonprofits, which, by the way, I did get a call from the Sierra Club, and because I called them, their phone number's right on the front of this, on these 990 forms, and I was like, dude, I have a radio show, and I guarantee you I'm talking about this. So he called me up and said, oh, no, that's a gross misrepresentation. We definitely do not support nuclear power. Please, that was just, I don't know where they came up with that. So I'm still writing them a letter and asking for a list of their donors, all of these organizations, all of them, all the ones that look like they're working for the anti-nuclear effort, and they're doing jack since Fukushima. For God's sakes. I mean, Dana Durnford, me, we're considered alternative radicals because we're talking about the harm. Yes, I support Dana Durnford 100% and his work. He's the only person who actually attempted to document the harm on the Canadian coast caused by Fukushima. It's an outrage. And the harassment he's gone through for that is an outrage. And it's an outrage that, frankly, we have to be on an, quote, alternative radio station while our children and our future children are being harmed. This is from Dr. John Goffman's book that I read on my YouTube channel. It is called Population Control Through Nuclear Pollution. I bought it. I thought it was a joke. He wrote it as a warning after he had written several books and it was just being summarily ignored. I just picked through 4 pages, opened it up looking for facts to tell you. So this is so incredible. This is why we cannot ignore it. This is why we're going to have people dropping off like flies in 10 years, folks. We need to stop them from creating more nuclear harm. This is why Helen Caldicott, her whole thing is about nuclear war. She thinks that they're actually on the verge of, she thinks that the nuclear war issue, the threat of nuclear war, is far greater than the consequential events of Fukushima overall because of the fact that they could they are perpetrating nuclear war. What do you think depleted uranium, little small uranium live weapons are? That's what Chris Busby says he thinks they used in Fallujah. Listen to Dr. Chris Busby's latest reports. He said, read them. He said from his studies, it was not depleted uranium, it was live uranium bullets. So something's going on that we're not talking about. Now, somebody did say that, Michael says he thinks that it was not that. So maybe not, but anyways, I still encourage you, listen to these facts because this is why I'm on the radio 3 times a week at 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm a student. I mean, honestly, it cuts into my ability to go to school. But you know what? There won't be any school if we don't stop these nuclear monsters. So this is so outrageous. The people in St. Louis, for real, they're going to work for Monsanto. They're really going to work for Fuse Wrap Republic Services without demanding remediation for their own goddamn families? Like, yeah, meet the old boss news. Hello, master. I'm sorry to offend anybody in St. Louis, but I cannot understand that. You're living less than 10, 15 miles away. I wouldn't work for those people. God, I wouldn't live there. I know you want to stick it out and fight, but listen to these statistics. Dr. John Goffman's book, Population Control Through Nuclear Pollution. It's fully annotated. It's a scientific book. It was, he had already published several things. This was published what year? 1970. Dr. Arthur Tamplin, Dr. John W. Goffman. What chapter is this? The subtitle of this chapter is How Radiation Increases. I'm sorry, this is from Table 1, page 14. How radiation increases occurrence rate of various cancers and leukemias in adults, type of cancer, percent increase in occurrence rate for each accumulated rad, number of rads of radiation required to double spontaneous cancer occurrence rate. Listen to this, since we have just had our radiation standards raised. Leukemia, type of cancer, leukemia, percent increase in occurrence rate for each accumulated rad, 2.2%. Number of rads of radiation required to double spontaneous cancer occurrence rate, 45 rads, folks. Thyroid, 1%, 100 rads. Lung, 1.4%, 70 rads. Breast, 3.3, 30%. Stomach, 1.1%, 90 rads. Pancreas, 1.7, 60 rads. Bone, 1.1, 90 rads. This is a shock. Okay, previous estimates of radiation hazards were too low. This is another subtitle on page 14. Some forms of cancer are spontaneously much more rare than others. This law or generalization states that both the common and the rare forms of cancer are increased about 2% in occurrence each rate is accumulated rad. Not true. We must now realize all other forms of cancer combined occurred approximately 20 times as frequently as leukemia. So I'm going to skip over. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I really want to get to the meat of this, and this is really why we have to stop this. The atypical results. What happens is the nuclear industry always looks at the atypical results, not at what typically happens. I mean, this is what it used to be. The statutory allowable dose to the population at large in the USA is 0.17 rad per year from peaceful uses of atomic forms of all energy. That just got increased. Our estimate of 32,000 extra cancers and leukemia is probably too low as a result of not taking the child sensitivity into account. Right, listen to this. Oh my gosh. If everyone in the population were to receive 0.17 rads per year from birth to age 30, the integrated exposure would be 5 rads per person. If the risk in all forms of cancer plus leukemia is an increase of 2% in incidence per rad, we have 5 times 2, which is a 10% increase in incident rates for all forms of cancer plus leukemia per year for a population of 200 million persons in the USA. Right, get that? This is an estimated dose that does not even credit the much greater sensitivity to cancer induction of the radiated child or the infant in utero. Our estimated of 32 extra cancers and leukemias is probably too low as a result of not taking the child sensitivity into account. And the 32 extra cancer plus leukemia cases per year exceeds by far the mortality rate from the highest mortality year in the Vietnam War. So we're just allowing people to just get killed year after year after year. Now, I'm going to read you something else, and I actually know this by heart. This was actually a poem I learned, and you know what? This is why I am doing this. For my children. Before my grandchildren. Do people even understand that radiation takes 4 to 80 years? We don't even see the worst genetic mutations for 6 generations. The people in Chernobyl are beginning to experience this. So are they across Europe, as a matter of fact. The cancer rate in Sweden and in France is quite high. When people say, oh, well, France has handled nuclear fine. No, they haven't. They got blasted from Chernobyl. So did Denmark. When we talk about nuclear power, what do we talk about? The cost. We're not even talking about the human cost. Everybody forgets that. Let's remember life before nuclear. We had love in this world. And you know what? Love is greater than fear. And this is just outrageous. The people decide, like, okay, we're on this little, do you know that we're considered like rat? I can't say that I'm not spitting nails enough about this one. And I am really going to call out these nonprofits that are making $100 million plus a year. Some guy's up there making $500,000 a year in salary and is not jumping up and down about Fukushima. You know he has the power to warn people in New York City about the treated water. Who does he think he is? Like his kids are not going to get bone cancer? Or like what? Maybe they'll just be able to receive the best cancer treatment in the world? We'll just keep nucleating them and radiating them, and who cares if they die at 21 or 71, right? That's not my life of living, folks. We have got some serious comeuppance to do. And you know what I like to do? Honestly, this is what I meant by interviewing me. When I first started this radio show, I used to read every single week the poetry. And I began to feel like it was a little bit burdensome. People would say something to me. But you know what? Like poetry is the part of the soul that we get to pluck out from within us. All of us are poets in one way. We all have something to give the world. We all have a gift. When I say all voices matter, I mean it. We need millions of people. It's not just, oh, I'm going to give to this organization. It's not about the give yourself. Because if we don't, we're not going to have children. We're not going to have whales. Have you guys looked at the mass animal deaths? Now that it's summer, I'm really going to really pursue this project. I'm creating an Excel spreadsheet, and I don't know, maybe somebody out there knows if there is one. I'm going to create an Excel spreadsheet. This person is creating this mass animal death. She links it to all these articles. I'm going to be able to figure out how many of these animals are dying each type. Because really, it's like the children dying in Palestine. Like, what if those are your children being buried up to the neck and being scoffed and laughed at and told, don't fucking throw rocks? Really? Well, don't tear down our houses because my brother threw a bomb at you. That's what they do in Israel. If your family member is someone who decides that they're going to go off the charts, your house gets destroyed. And don't try to build it because they'll destroy it again. They keep destroying it. With whose money? Our tax dollars. Thank you very much. They get to be the bully, we pay for it. Outrageous, folks. I memorized this poem for my daughter Lennon because when she was a baby, I had no idea what to do with the baby. So I wanted to breastfeed her, and she wanted to nurse all day long. So I would sit 4 and 5 hours and memorize Shakespeare's sonnets. So I think I've memorized about 10 or 12 of them. This is the first one, and I want to share it with you because Father's Day just passed. And without their father, I would never have been a mother. So if nothing else, I appreciate my ex-husband for that. This is sonnet number 30 of Shakespeare's sonnets. When to the sessions of sweet silent thought I summon up remembrance of things past, I sigh the lack of many a thing I sought, and with old woes new wail my dear time's waste. Then can I drown an eye, unused to flow, for precious friends hid in death's dateless night, and weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe, and moan the expense of many a vanished sight. Then can I grieve at grievances foregone, and heavily from woe to woe tell o'er the sad account of fore bemoaned moan, which I new pay as if not paid before. But if I think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored, and sorrows end. And I memorized that for my beautiful little daughter because she was the first person to ever love me. And I am not going to give up the world to the nuclear industry. Not going to do it. We're not going to let them kill all life on this planet because they are greedy pigs and they have dug their hand down into the cookie jar so badly. They have made such a mess, they have no idea what to do. Okay, get that. You know what? I'm willing to call a truce. Just stop making more nuclear poison. Just stop. Stop with the weapons. Stop killing all life on the planet. Just stop. Put your money into getting rich on finding solutions, on helping humanity, on helping recuperate the issue that you got. Like this retribution mentality is just like outrageous. The war has to stop. There's a war on everything on this planet, folks, and it's got to stop. And it will only stop when millions, and I mean millions and billions of us just go, hell no, we won't go. No. Like, people expect me just to vote for Hillary Clinton because, oh, Bernie's going to tell me to. Really? That's like asking me to vote for Bush. Can't do that either. Or Trump. Can't do that either. None of the above. I mean, honestly, I'll take Bernie. And I don't have massive expectations for him, folks, but at least, and I've heard these things about Bernie Sanders. Well, he brought waste to Texas. Yes. And you know what? That was legally passed, and at least they oversaw some sense of control over it, some reasonability of it. instead of just throwing it out in the freaking. I mean, in fact, it probably has just been thrown out in the desert. I mean, I do not know what it's going to take for people to get off their asses. This is why I do these interviews because of. Did you guys? I'm going to share this email that I dug off of Donna Gilmore's webpage. I don't know if many of you who have listened to her interview have actually gone to her webpage and really dug into it. But there's an email from Dave Lochbon regarding Holtec Umex systems. And she printed it up because she just had it with his doesn't care attitude. That's kind of like the bottom line is like he doesn't really care. Listen to what he says. Dear Donna, we disagree about thick cast technology being better than thin canisters. Really? Is his brain like half cracked? To me, the primary hazards from dry storage are one, the risk of dropping a canister as it is being lowered in or out of the pool, or two, the risk of someone attacking a dry storage facility, breaching the integrity of one or more canisters. I view the hazard from a canister, thick or thin, to be substantially lower than either of these hazards. What a mother, you know what, like this guy, honestly. Dave Lochbaum, you are part of the problem. Hello. It is common sense. You're telling us that you think that there's a greater threat of a terrorist attack, which, frankly, in the United States, there is. That's an intentional plan, just like the half-inch thick canisters. Or the risk of dropping. Well, if you're going to drop the canister, don't you think it would be a greater container if it was 15 inches thick than a half an inch thick, Dave? Like, let's get clear. You know what, you guys? This is why I do this show. This is why I dig out people to interview who can talk to me because Donna Gilmore printed this. Donna Gilmore is the human being who decided to get actively engaged. She goes to the meetings. She asks questions. She speaks respectfully. She doesn't cuss anybody out. She doesn't act like she knows everything. In fact, she acts like very unassuming, which takes all these bastards off guard. And then she drops stuff in their lap like, oh, by the way, do you know that our canisters are only a half an inch thick and they crack in 20 years? Which is a tactic I totally love. And she gives them their information back. You know, instead of like going to resources that they say, well, that doesn't come from the government. She like digs into their information and says, yeah, it does come from the government. And even the government says that you guys suck. So here's Mr. Dave Lochbaum, who is the expert at the Union of Concerned Scientists. So she's having this argument with him back and forth since December through the email about the thick canisters. Finally, he says, oh, we have a disagreement. This is why he disagrees, that there's a risk of a terrorist attack or someone attacking it, bastard, because he makes sure that we have the worst security on these nuclear facilities, and it's very well known. If we didn't have decent police departments, we probably would have a terrorist attack. But they're, like this, those guys probably wouldn't make it. Okay. Or maybe not. Look at Sister Megan Rice. Thick cast cannot hold as much as spent fuel. Cannot hold as much spent fuel. Oh, so this is what he's upset about. Thick cast cannot hold as much spent fuel. Thus, to unload the spent fuel pools requires more thick cast than can be used with thin canisters. While measures are taken to guard against dropping a cast container over the spent fuel pool, these measures are not 100% reliable. As of March 31st, drop of a 525-ton stator at Arkansas Nuclear 1 reminds us. Oh, really? To me, any benefit of the thick cast relative to the thin canisters on the corrosive degradation side is more than offset by the greater chance of dropping a heavy load over a spent fuel pool. Okay, so this is his argument. Okay. So why can't you figure out a different way to get it into the thick cast? Additionally, the NRC does not require above ground does not require above ground dry storage to be protected against sabotage. Oh, God, I love this. Can you believe it? This is the world we live in. 9/11, how much billions of dollars we have, like, we're getting spied on. This freaking spy machine is listening to our conversation as we speak, and this rat has the ability to say this in a private email without calling it out publicly. Additionally, the NRC currently does not have above ground dry storage to be protected against sabotage. As I outlined in my April 2015 presentation to the California Energy Commission, USC advocates UCS advocates robust dry storage. The underground storage proposed by Holtec is not invulnerable to sabotage, but it requires considerably more skill and effort by the bad actors. Thus, the underground provides better protection against sabotage than thick casts on open pads provides. So he's saying let's bury it in the ground in thin containers. Now that's a brilliant idea, Dave. What happens if we have an earthquake? Yeah, let's put all of Diablo Canyon stuff beneath the earth. Wonder how much this guy makes. What if I could find out? We'll have to add him to the 990 list, I guess, huh? Wow. They actually believe this stuff, or maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Can he possibly? Thick casts are not presently certified for use in the U.S. and not likely to be certified in the foreseeable future. You know why? Because Mr. Dave Lochbaum is one of the experts who would say, no, I don't think they're really worth it. As long as the NRC certifies thin canisters, vendors are unlikely to apply to the NRC for certification for more costly thick cast systems. Even if they obtained certification, these vendors would unlikely find customers willing to pay more for them because it's only all about the cost, Dave. Because it's only about money. Who cares about the life that you're killing, the planet that you're killing, by pulling uranium out of the middle of the earth, exploding it, using the waste, and discarding the waste without regard to the earthquakes or the geology? What a rat. It's impossible for me to advocate thick casts when A, none are likely to be certified for use in the U.S., and B, even if certified and available, thick casts increase the two dominant hazards from dry storage. F you. This is the kind of guy that, like, really, I hope he has a dominatrix. I swear to God, he deserves it. Wow. Okay. So this is where I have to take a break. We should do some tapping, you guys. This is what we do. You tap on your clavicle and you just think about how these rat bastards are killing our planet without regard to human life or any life on our planet. Oh, my goodness gracious. Handle a large kingdom with as gentle a touch as if you were cooking small fish. If you manage people by letting them alone, ghosts of the dead shall not haunt you. Not that there are no ghosts, but that their influence becomes propitious in the sound existence of a living man. There is no difference between the there is no difference between the quick and the dead. They're one channel of vitality. Wow, that's really great. That is number 60 in the Way of Life, Lao Tzu. There is no difference between the quick and the dead. They are one channel of vitality, and amen to that. And I guess maybe that's, this guy. I cannot believe these. This is the thinking of the nuclear industry. Dave Lochbaum is the premier scientist from Union of Concerned Scientists regarding this whole system. I wonder what she said back to him on that. Okay, I'm going to keep reading the rest of his response. It's not very long. It's one more paragraph, guys. I see that we're at 8:29. Okay. The longer one awaits for thick cast to appear on the U.S. market, the longer irradiated fuel remains and spent in the spent fuel pools at San Onofre. See, he's trying to give her, oh, here's your carrot, honey. We know you want the spent fuel at San Onofre move, so here's your little spent. Here's your little thing to say we give in on the thin caskets. The longer one waits for thick caskets to appear on the U.S. market, the longer irradiated fuel remains in the spent fuel pools at San Onofre. The hazard from irradiated fuel in spent fuel pools is higher than the hazard it is from non-robust above-ground thick caskets, which in turn is a higher hazard than from in thinner canisters. I gladly endorse the SCE's plan because they provide the better risk management of the spent fuel hazard on site. So he is calling the thick caskets non-robust, and that's what he's saying. And he is saying that the thin canisters are robust because they can move them around. This is my thinking. Why can't they put the thick canisters in the ground and pour the spent fuel in the ground? Maybe I don't understand the science of it all, but it seems to me that how do they do that? I don't know. I'll have to ask Donna. She understands that stuff. You know what I know about nuclear stuff? This, Dr. John Goffman's work. Poison power. He talks about the real facts, how they came up with it. I mean, in the back of Poison Power is fully annotated. There are graphs and charts, and he talks about, people need to read these old books that Dr. John Goffman, Linus Pauling, Arthur Tamplin did, because that's where the real original science was done. And as soon as they gave the answer to the NRC, which was then the AEC, they started cooking the books. Just like the UN did, just like the IAEA did in the early 50s when they knew they were frying people. Seriously bad. Do you know that in the Marshall Islands still people have mutations? So few children make it to adulthood without some serious problem. At the very least, most of the people there have diabetes. And what's really ironic is that diabetes is blamed on the crap diet that the United States gives these people because they can't eat their food, because their islands are still radiated. It's so outrageous. And we just act like it's no big deal. We need millions of people. We seriously need millions of people to look into this. Here's this guy, Dave Lochbaum, from the Union of Concerned Scientists, telling Donna Gilmore that he thinks that the thin canisters that are only a half an inch thick are much safer. And listen to his threat. This is the sad part about how it works in the United States. Do you know who is the main scientist? The guy who recommends whether the thick canisters or the thin canisters are approved? Dave Lochbaum. He's the guy. Thick canisters are presently not certified for use in the U.S. and not likely to be certified in the foreseeable future, because if they were to ask him, the so-called expert, he's going to say no, because we might drop it in a spent fuel pool instead of thinking a different way to put the fuel in there. Have the Europeans had that trouble? No, but do they spend 2-3 times as much money protecting their people from nuclear? Yes. Do they tell their people that they're cleaning out their nuclear power plants once a year and tells them, stay inside, keep your kids inside for the next 2 to 3 weeks? Yes. Do they ban GMOs? Yes. A lot of the pharmaceuticals that are sold in the United States are illegal to sell in other countries. Why? Because it kills people, harms people, mutates people, causes genetic birth defects. Our country is just like healthcare for profit. Cha-ching. Thank you very much. Let's just keep the nuclear industry going, the geoengineering going. Let's just, dumb everybody down and make a lot of money, man. And then we're going to kill anybody anyway, so we might as well just dig in deep and get rich and hope our kids make it. Dig underground. I mean, really, is that what they're doing? Is that what that whole Gothard tunnel thing was about? I mean, our station, this radio show is kind of considered an alternative radio station. And it is alternative in that we bring truth. Why is that alternative? Why does CBS News, NBC, MSNBC, all of those people get to lie and manipulate? And I mean, just propagandize 24 hours a day. Why is that? And what? I mean, frankly, I'm a TV person. I mean, I'm an unabashed TV person. I still watch Survivor. So, I, but the thing is, it's almost like, and in fact, even Michael said this last night. He watches CNN, like we just watch it to see what lies they're telling us. It's like a game. And this is the part about lately, they don't care. If this election cycle did not show us anything, they really don't care if we know anymore. Hillary Clinton could care less if we know that she's stolen the primaries. She's going to ascend to the throne. And they will be super pissed off if Trump actually does it, because that was not part of the plan. He was supposed to just help her get elected. And here I am on a radio station talking about nuclear power about to kill us. And not about to kill us. It is killing us, folks. And you know what our only way out is, really? Our thoughts are things. It is really our ability to decide we're going to mentally change their minds. That's all that we can talk about. Because really, we don't have the power. I mean, think about all the people that we've learned from in our lives about. We're all agreeing all the time. This is part of the 4 agreements for us to think about this. We're all agreeing all the time with what we see out here. And so that's why they know that when Bernays taught that to them and said, hey, man, with the radio, they began to realize they could sway public opinion, do a lot of things. And right now, people in St. Louis are living right next door to a burning nuclear dump site, you guys. Honestly, for the EPA to say they do not know where it is a bunch of crap. You know what the report said that I read? It said that they stuck their poles down. They couldn't find a place that didn't have the radiation. So they know where it's at. It's everywhere. But guess what? It's everywhere in St. Louis. There was complete disregard. And actually, I really, after reading John Goffman's book, this book, he wrote it as a warning. I read it on my YouTube channel, Population Control Through Nuclear Power. At the end of the book, he was so optimistic. He said, oh, we're going to hope, I know that people will stand up and rise up before they destroy the planet. Our activists are going to keep these people at check. And you know what happened to him? Nothing. That was written in 1970. He got drowned out. Bill Clinton gave the airwaves to the oligarchs. And the Clintons have done nothing but wreak havoc. Our illusion of what we have as a government, is outrageous. Am I going to vote? Yes, I will vote. And if Bernie tells me to vote for Clinton, I'm voting for the Green Party or the Independent Party. I don't know. I think I will vote for the Green Party, actually. I mean, I know people don't like, well, that's a socialist. Yeah, I guess I'm a socialist. I believe in taking care of the poor. I believe in taking care of the elderly. I believe in bankers having to pay taxes. Sorry, you don't get to make 2.3 billion. You only get to make 1.1 billion. 1 billion gets to go into the coffers for the poor people because you do not have rich people. Big riches comes on the back of big poverty. That is the reality in life. You want an egalitarian system? No, because people like being rich. But that doesn't mean that the rich people get to take everything. So last night I learned, speaking of the 4 agreements, I learned something called the 4 rules of firearms safety. And I'm going to read them. And the reason I'm going to read them is because right now in our country they are talking about firearms. Assault weapons and who has them. And Can we, this again, I don't get why people need a boatload of guns. I don't know who you're going to kill because I'm not killing my neighbor. Uh, I don't know. I mean, last night Michael said I should just go in and touch it, and I would know. I would like feel around and just take a look at some different weapons. But let me read this because I think people who do have guns could use to hear this. I think it's important because if you're going to have guns and we have boatloads of them, this is really good. Although I think number 4 should probably be number 1, but we'll start in his order. 4 rules of firearm safety. And number 1, assume every firearm is loaded. Assume all firearms are loaded until you personally unload it, look in the chamber, and recognize that it is unloaded. So as soon as you see a firearm, assume it's loaded. Number 2, keep the muzzle in safe directions at all time. Loaded or unloaded, no matter what, muzzle in the safe direction at all times. Number 3, know your target and know what's beyond your target at all times. Like understand like what you're shooting at and what's behind it. And number 4, do not put your finger on the trigger until you are ready to shoot, until you're ready to discharge. So those are 4 really great rules of firearm safety. I wanted to share them again this morning. Last night when I realized I didn't have anybody for the radio show, I thought, what am I going to do? But I can't believe that we now live in a world where we have so-called environmental groups that are keeping their traps shut. And now we're seeing why. The Sierra Club made $104,369,000. Now, to their credit, their donor list that they turned in wasn't heavy with big $1 million contributions like some of the other ones. They have 50,000, 50,000, 35. They have one 900,000, so that'll be very interesting. I am still going to ask them for a list of their donor list. Because it's important for us to know there's one for 152,000. So we need to know who are supporting these people and the influence there. See, because these nonprofits they're not allowed to lobby. So, but lobbyists can lobby them by paying them money. And so they can keep their trap shut and say, oh, no, no, no. Like Sierra Club said, no, we're definitely anti-nuclear. Don't worry. But we have these guys, Natural Resource Defense Council. Their mission statement says to safeguard the earth, its people, its planets, and animals, and the natural systems on which all life depends. Now, I just read you some quick blurbs at the beginning of the show from John Goffman's book. I don't think that they are actually upholding their mission statement. They are located in New York, New York, where tritium is now in their water supply at a very high amount. And I do not think that they are acting to maintain natural systems on which all life depends. Their contributions are 4 million, 3,015,000, 3 million, 11 million, and that is only half. That's not even touching all of the $121,617,764 on their 2013, not their 14 tax returns, which I am going to ask for. The CEO of this place, the guy who's running it, makes a salary of just over $500,000. Now, in New York, Indian Point is off the charts bad. They're located in New York. He's making $500,000. They're bringing in 120 million at least, or let's say 100 million. Let's say their contributions decrease by between now and then because the economy's been hard. Let's just say they didn't even make 100 million. Let's say they only made about 80 million and went way down. Why is this guy? How can these people live with themselves? That's what I want to know. So I'm going to be doing some We are definitely going to be hearing back on this. Because these people should be organizing the millions of people. I'm on a radio station where even my guests, when they come on, they go, "What's that station name?" I'm like, Americans are so lazy. I honestly, sometimes I want to snap at them and say, "What the fuck, man? You're on the radio show. Find it yourself. Type in Age of Fission radio show. You'll find it." I mean, honestly, we're the only radio station out there. And by the way, please do contribute. We're the only radio station who has people interviewing on anti-nuclear stuff and the truth. It's not, and you know what? We're pro-life. We're really pro-life here. That's the issue. It's we really want to keep life alive, and nuclear is a fast track to death. Just like geoengineering, fast track to death. And cha-ching, someone's making a lot of money off of it, and it is time to stop. They can stop making the thing that's harming our planet. They've done, what's the half-life? I mean, really, 500,000 years? They've like done these experiments out in the middle of God knows where, and the half-life is half of 100,000 years. So that means that people are still being exposed. We haven't even seen the beginning of it, folks. We're 70 years in to the most catastrophic scientific failure ever. And the people who started it are saying, "Oh, well, let's just don't pay attention to it because it's just so bad. Let's just pretend it's no big deal. And we'll talk about other things because, after all, the methane's escaping. Ooh, global warming." You know what? I'm not buying that story. We need to start thinking critically. And this is why, because we have children. I don't know about you, but I love my children. I love both of my daughters. They are just like the best people I've ever met in my life. And I am not about to let their children and their grandchildren die at the hands of these monsters who 70 years ago decided to perpetrate war on the planet that they knew could harm all life on the planet, and they did it anyways. They did it anyways. And we are living with the consequences, and we are being convinced to just ignore it because that's the state of life now. Too fucking bad. Too bad. No, I'm not buying that. And I am going to show up here 3 times a week as long as this opportunity is available to me. And you know what? It gets tedious, especially when guests don't show up or they forget that they made an appointment with you, or people go, "Oh, oh, yeah, you're that radiation person." No, I'm not. That's not what it's about, folks. It's about you loving your life enough to stand up to these people. It needs millions of people. I mean, whether you want to eat fish or not, knock yourself out. Go get cancer early. Whatever. Suit yourself. People smoke cigarettes. They do whatever. I don't care if you want to ignore it or not. We need to stop it. And we're not going to stop it if just 1 or 2 people call up. You know, even calling your representatives, I get it, but you know what? If millions of people call them, it might actually make a difference. A few thousand people might make a difference, but if we had like 100,000 people in this country calling up, like all the super delegates and all the people going to the conventions going, "Hey, you know what? This nuclear issue in New York City, the nuclear issue at WIP over at Hanford, the lies of the nuclear industry, we got to stop this stuff. It's getting serious. We need to like just stop making nuclear power, put up solar panels, put up wind, you know, find the alternative things that have been suppressed because we know they're there." Am I just the eternal optimist? Yes, I am actually. Why not? We have one life. We might as well believe that we are blessed and highly favored. Might as well choose that phrase to say to ourselves. You know, we've been blasted out with, you know, the Bushonomics of "you're all fucked." Excuse my language, but that's exactly what happened. As soon as Bush came in, that was the message to the entire country. Nope, we're still in the election, and guess what? Boom, here comes martial law. And by the way, we're spying on all of you, and be afraid, be very afraid, we're going to throw you all in jail. Well, you know what? I'm not buying that. That story gets old. You can only oppress people for so long, especially Americans who actually have this idea that we are free, you know? But what we need to be able to do is understand that that takes responsibility and integrity. And we need to find that again. People need to be living their integrity and stop being angry about stuff. Like, just, we have got to just choose to hang together and get over it. I personally am not about the Nuremberg trials. I am going to become an attorney so I can overturn the Price-Anderson Act. That's my number one mission in life, because that is why we get cookie cutter legislation in anything related to nuclear that's called cost savings. Cost savings means nobody gets held accountable. It is a limitation on liability. That's what the Price-Anderson Act does. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody's held responsible. The financial cost is held to a cap, knowingly or unknowingly causing harm, because nuclear is knowingly. You have to knowingly cause harm anytime you use nuclear. It is a risk. There is no safe level of radiation, period. That's what every scientific peer-reviewed study has shown. Dr. Gilmedy has been torturing dogs for 30 years almost. And thank you, Dana Durnford, for finding out about Dr. Gilmedy's studies and getting the scientific studies. Because actually, that is exactly what happens. He has shown time and time again there is no safe level of radiation. There's always a cost. So, and we're in, folks. We are deeply in. The only thing we can do is use our nuclear science to figure out how to remediate it, and not nanotech people, not create super biological humans. So outrageous. There has to be sound healing or some other way to move the molecules. And there is, and they're suppressing it. And that's the interesting thing, is the suppression of true healing. That goes along with the tyranny that we're living in. And I'm going to call it straight out for what it is. Since I'm interviewing myself, I'll say as many outrageous things as I feel like. But look, I appreciate this venue, and I really take it seriously, and I believe that so do the people that I interview. I know Dana Durnford does, Donna Gilmore does, Mimi Gurman does. I mean, I'm hoping that I can have Libby Halavian again. Um, she is really not. She's an investigative reporter in the nuclear industry, and she knows a lot. And so I do want to interview her again, because she's talked to lots of people. So, she's picked the brains of a lot of people. And Dr. Gordon up in Canada, I have not actually reached out to him, mostly because I'm busy. The radio show is a part-time job for me. So, and I don't have a secretary for it. So I have to figure out. This is why today I had an interview that was canceled last minute, and I really did not have time to fill the slot. So I decided to talk to you about what I'm doing, because, and you guys can do the same. I mean, what would happen if we got 5 people writing the Sierra Club saying, we'd like a list of your donors, or 5 people writing well, let me give you this story date, and you can look it up yourself and decide what you want to do. But the form is $9.90. That's their, and you have to ask for the donors. The article was written in the Wall Street Journal, and they posted it up several times. I about had a heart attack. June 16th, 2016, written by Amy Harder. Environmental group changes tune on nuclear power. And it basically said that Michael Brune says his group is focusing most of its resources on closing coal plants and preventing construction of new natural gas plants. Okay, so we're actively debating the timeline in which nuclear plants should be decommissioned as we reduce our reliance on coal and gas in the electric sector. The shift is twofold. Some environmental groups that in the past have protested existing reactors are now at times staying on the sidelines. In other cases, such as the one in Illinois, environmentalists are actively working towards keeping reactors open. So, who was that if it was not the Sierra Club? The other two did not call me back and deny it, folks. The ones with the $11 million contribution. Oh, and we did not even talk about the other organization, Environmental Defense Fund, 113. Again, their 14 should be listed on the website, and it's not because their annual fiscal year is September 30th, 2014, which means it's required to be filed within 6 months of that date. That would be 15, and then it's required to be up 6 months after that, which would mean still by the end of 15 it should be up. So in 13, however, they made $147 million, 163,910. And who is their accountant? Eisenamber. Well, I'm going to find out. She's a CPA. But look what happened. All other contributions, 136,607,897. They got government grants, 3,356,000. So honestly, we're going to figure out who gave them this money. And we're going to figure out what their salaries are. And we're going to talk about why they are working with Illinois to keep those two decrepit nuclear power plants open that the state of Illinois said they would not pay for. This article, which said, okay, here we go. In Illinois, the Natural Resource Defense Council, along with the Sierra Club and EDF, are among the advocacy groups working with Exelon and state lawmakers on legislative deal that would reverse a decision the company made in early June to close 2 nuclear reactors in the next 2 years. So anybody living in Illinois, you need to call up your state legislators and say, not so fast. So I see we're coming up on, we have 4 minutes left, or 3 minutes, I guess, now. Thank everybody. I really want to thank everybody for joining my radio show and for listening to people and for getting active. And I hope that there are some people in Illinois who will call up your legislators and say, I do not want those 2 decrepit nuclear power plants that are losing $800 million in the last 7 years. Illinois said, no, there's no money for you. So now we have environmental groups. It is the Natural Resource Defense Council and the Environmental Defense Fund, Inc. So I guess those are the 2 groups that are working with them because the Sierra Club called up immediately and said, oh, that was gross misrepresentation. Not the other 2. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Obviously, they're hundreds of millions of dollars. $11 million. They're getting big money. It's so transparent. But that's okay. I mean, really, the way I feel about it, take the money and run. Just stop doing it. We need people. And we need these people's influence, and we need them to understand the danger. So I want to thank people for joining the radio show. On Friday, we will have Call-In Friday. You are free to respond. On Monday, we had trouble with the server, so the show was a repeat. So hopefully Friday everything will be fine. I'm actually, again, I'm going to be up in Washington one more time, but I'm going to be in a hotel room, so it should be quieter. And I appreciate all of your attention. Please get the word out about this station, about this radio show. Please get the word out to your friends about the urgency of all of us actively engaging, doing your own research. Please read these books, Poison Power. Find out the real research about the harm that nuclear does. It's not that hard. Donna Gilmore's page has lots of it, santanofreesafety.org. And put your courage feet on, you guys. We really need it. The time is short, so take action. Please, put your courage feet on. Take action. Do what you know you can do. Thanks a lot. We'll talk with you soon.